Now we're going to work on the logic, but we're going to start small. So we're going to start with the split, these two buttons here, right? We have minus and plus. Okay. So the idea is simple. We want to make sure that when we click minus, in this case, right, to subtract, we want to subtract the number. And if we go upwards, plus, we're going to add more people in this case, right? We're saying that we want to split 3 ways, 4 ways, 5, 6, 7, 10 ways, and so forth. Okay, let's look at that logic. And all of that is found inside of a round button. So if I go back to our build form, we'll see that we have input there and we have our row. And let's start with our first button here, which is the minus button. So all of that is going to happen inside of our onClick. So what is it that we want to happen? Well, remember that in this case here, we need to always think of the state. We want to keep the state, or the counter in this case, of the people or the amount we are going to split by. So what we need to do again, you may have guessed, we need to create yet another state at the top here. And this is going to be, I'm going to call the, let's say val, say split by state. Okay, and say remember, state of is going to be an integer, just pass 1. Or on click round button here. What is that we want to happen? So we want to say split by, right, the value, the state, that value in this case, we want to set it to a certain value. But we need to think about this first. What we want to happen is that this value here, when we click, let's say if we have, first of all, it always should have 1. That's important because we don't want to split by 0. We need to put some sort of a range to say, okay, if we get to 1 as they click minus, we need to stop at 1. So here I'm going to put an if statement. Let's put in a new line. I'm going to say if split by state, that value, current one that we may have, is greater than 1, then in that case, then split by value, I'm just going to say minus 1. So I'm going to subtract, right? Because that would work. Else, I'm just going to say split by is going to be equal to 1. So we're saying here the value of our split by state is going to be equal depending on whether the value, current value, is greater than 1. If it is greater than 1, then yes, we're going to subtract minus 1 because that means we haven't hit 0 yet. Else, if it is indeed less than 1, right, then we're just going to say this is going to be 1. That's what we're going to pass inside here because this is just a dummy data we added here. So I'm going to say split by that value as such. Let's see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and run. Okay, so now we see 1 here. The reason being is because we said the first state or the first value, the default value is going to be 1. Okay, let's actually change this to 0. Very good. That means then if I try to go minus, notice that's going to happen. If I change this just for testing purposes, if I say, for instance, 3, let's run again. Because of what we've just done here, this if statement and checking the values, you'll see that we are going to be able to subtract the value. So now it says 3. If I go down, right, there we go. But if I get to 1, try to keep going, it's not going to accept that value. Very good. That's exactly what we want. Let's go back and put 1 here. Here, there's really not much work to do. But just for fun, what we can do, we can put a cap, right? Let's say we want to make sure that the split by state, that value in this case, we'll check to see if it's less than a certain range. So I can use Kotlin to calculate a range or to give us a range. Let's create here, say val range, that'll be equal to int range like this. And I can pass here start, it's going to be 1 and end inclusive. Let's say 100 just to be dramatic. Okay, so now we can use that range to compare. If split by value is less than, and then I'm going to say split value or split by value, then I'm going to be able to say split by value again plus 1. Makes sense because we're within the range. So let's say value like this to get the actual value. Okay, let's go ahead and run. Okay, let's see. And it's working. If we go lower, we can see it works, stops at 1, and very good. So our split buttons here are indeed working.